Hello and welcome to the France 24 interview. My guest today is Yahya Assiri. He is a Saudi human rights activist based in London. He is the founder of the Al-Qist NGO. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for having me today.
Obviously, we're going to talk about the tragic murder of Jamal Khashoggi, this Saudi critic who died, killed inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. This led to a global outcry. You knew him. Could you have imagined this would have happened to him?
Never. In the past, we keep talking to the world about how the Saudi regime are a repression regime and how is the regime is dictator regime. But we never expected something like what's happened to Jamal. And Jamal Khashoggi, he wasn't the real dissident who is really criticizing the government strongly and harshly. He was trying to find solution with the government. He was trying to push for reform inside the country.
He was somehow an insider.
Exactly, and in the past he spent lots of years defending and pro-government, and he was trying to push for reform from inside the government itself. And later on, when he started to criticize the Saudi regime from outside the country, they made this crime against Jamal Khashoggi when they killed him inside the Saudi consulate. I think nobody expected that from the Saudi regime, and nobody expected that from any regime around the world to kill a journalist by this barbaric way.
He was scared, apparently. He was taking some measures to be cautious, not to go back to Saudi Arabia, despite attempts to lure him back. Is this a concern also for other Saudi dissidents or even people who mightily criticize the regime?
Yeah, there is concern for all Saudi people who are criticizing the government. If they are inside the country, they must be behind the bars, especially right now. This moment, nobody can criticize the government from inside the country. And if someone outside the country and start to criticize the government, it is high risk to go back to the country because for sure they will face a prison. But Jamal Khashoggi, he was afraid from the Saudi government. They will ban him from travel. They will take him to the prison. But I believe he never expected or thought he will be killed like that. Otherwise, he will not go to Saudi consulate.
But is this a tragic incident, or is it part of a broader campaign to crack down on dissent inside Saudi Arabia? There have been a number of arrests, but also outside. And could this campaign also entail eliminating those opponents who do not want to come back or shut up?
It's planned and it is strategic for the government, and we know some of it, and the government just telling us about some part of it. In the past, we know the government is trying to silence anyone inside the country, and also they made a crisis with countries because they are criticizing the government, like what's happened to Canada, and also the crisis with Germany, with other countries. They're trying to silence any voice that could criticize the government, but to silence the dissident outside the country, we don't know what's the plan for them until they say it about the story for Jamal Khashoggi. There is no order from the ruler, from the crown prince, or from the king to kill Jamal. But there is, and this is regarding to the Saudi media, and they leaks that also for Reuters. They said there is open order for the Saudi intelligence to try to get back all Saudi dissidents outside the country. So they opened the order for the Saudi intelligence to kidnap the Saudi dissidents outside the country.
Right. Do you think the authorities there were shell-shocked, basically, by the reaction from Turkey? We've seen President Erdogan again say that he wants those responsible to be brought to justice and that there should be someone accountable. He seems to be aiming at the Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman, who was reportedly very, very annoyed by the world's reaction.
Exactly, and all the world right now, not just Erdogan, all the world, they know MBS, he's behind this story. And the government, they are really shocked about the reaction from the world and from the media, from the NGOs. they shocked because they thought nobody will ask them what they are doing. MBS, he started the war in Yemen, and there is no lots of question about the war in Yemen. And just there is some questions, but it is not enough. What's happened in Yemen, it's really tragedy about what's going on in Yemen. And he started mass arrest against all reformers, against all human rights defenders, women rights defenders. He targeted everyone inside the country. And also the reaction from the world, it wasn't enough. So they feel overconfident, and they feel they are free to do anything outside or inside the country. And when they committed the crime against Jamal Khashoggi, they shocked about the reaction from the world. But what we believe, the world right now, they understand who is MBS, and nobody right now believe MBS he's a reformer or believe MBS he could be a ruler to deal with.
Do you think that there will be a thorough investigation by Saudi Arabia, by Turkey, maybe by an international body, or that this will soon be forgotten?
By Saudi Arabia, no. They are trying to get rid of this story, and they are trying to keep lying to the world. And they publish lots of lies, and they keep updating the story every several days. They updating the story. The first story from the Saudi government, they said to Khadija Jenkins, the fiancée, Jamal's fiancée, they said to her, first time, we haven't seen Jamal. He haven't entered the consulate. Later on, they said he entered the consulate, but he left the consulate. And later on, they keep repeating this story, and not any person repeated that. Khalid bin Salman, Mohammed bin Salman, and the Saudi consulate as well. They repeated the same story. Later on, they admit the crime, and they admit it's planned crime. So they keep changing the story, and we don't believe the Saudi government. But what we are pushing for international investigation. If there is international investigation, the person who is responsible for this crime, he must be punished.
Is there a risk for Mohammed bin Salman? We also remember the crackdown on several senior business person, some princes in the Ritz-Carlton. There are reports also that some princes were maybe abducted, brought back, that there could be a rift within the ruling family, and that there is a risk for him that he could annoy, obviously, the opposition, but also maybe people from inside.
Exactly. Mohammed bin Salman, he's in high risk right now. And we assume Mohammed bin Salman will lift the position. Otherwise, if he stayed in the position, he will be weak and weak.
You think he's in danger?
He's
of being kicked out?
Exactly.
By his father?
By his father, because his father also under pressure, international pressure, are also internal pressure from the royal family. Royal family, they feel fed up from MBS, and they know them time will end by MBS. If he stayed in the power, he will one day we will find collapse in the country.
So you think his time is counted now?
Exactly.
I want to get quickly to another aspect, obviously, of Saudi Arabia's policy. You've mentioned it, the war in Yemen. It's being condemned because of the human catastrophe it is causing. We saw the French defense minister saying for the first time this war has to end. You met with the French president. There's a lot of criticism that, unlike Germany, France is not willing to suspend military sales to Saudi Arabia until the Khashoggi story is solved. What did he tell you?
He talked about if there is a one position from all European countries, and this is what we hope. We hope there is one position from all European countries. If they stop the arms deal for Saudi Arabia altogether, that means Saudi Arabia, they can't success and they can't continue with these crimes. But if there is one country will stop the arms deal, like Germany, for example, and France and UK will continue, that will enhance and encourage Saudi Arabia to go forward with it and to put the loads in Germany and to put Germany will lost if France and UK take advantage from that and have more deals with Saudi Arabia. So what we believe, it must be one position from all the world, especially European country, against the Saudi regime, against the crimes from Saudi regime.
Just the last question. Do you think there is a chance that because of the outcry following Jamal Khashoggi's murder, there is a chance that the international community, the Europeans, the Americans, could put pressure on Saudi Arabia and its allies to end the war in Yemen? that this could be used as leverage to end this catastrophe.
Yeah, if they want to put the pressure, they are able to do. But
you're not sure they want to.
They say they want to, and if they go forward for that, that will end the war in Yemen.
Did the French president tell you we want to push much harder to end the war in Yemen?
Yes, he said that yesterday in our meeting yesterday. He said that he want to put more pressure on the war in Yemen, and also in other cases. We mentioned
Qatar, for instance.
We haven't mentioned Qatar. We mentioned the crisis happened by Saudi Arabia, Qatar included, and Canada mainly, and Germany as well. And also there is main issue inside the country, the mass arrest for the human rights defenders and the prisoner of conscience. Those people in high risk inside the prisons, because who killed Jamal Khashoggi in the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, who held those people behind the bars.
Right. So you're hoping Western countries will put pressure on Saudi Arabia maybe to free some of those prisoners.
Exactly. And we have heard the foreign minister in Saudi Arabia when he said, we promised the world this incident will not happen again. This promising, it's not diplomatic, and this is not acceptable in the politics world. But if they want to guarantee something to the world, first step to end the war in Yemen and to free the prisoner of conscience and to tell the truth about the story for Jamal Khashoggi.
Yahya Assiri, thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for watching this interview here on France 24.